All right, so welcome to the conversation, Dale and Joanne. I was hoping that you would both introduce yourselves by way of describing how long you've each been curling, what you would say your greatest accomplishment was in curling, and how long the two of you have been curling together regularly. Dale, why don't you go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. Well, the number of years I've curled, I'm not sure that I really want to say how many I've curled. In reality, it's probably 55 years of curling that I've had. Long time. I think in that period of time, I might have missed one season living down in the States for that time. And greatest accomplishment, I would have to say, when I went to senior women's nationals in Ottawa and stuff, that's probably been my greatest accomplishment as a skip. And as far as years together, have we had 2 years or 3 years together now?
At St. Thomas, I believe this is our third or fourth season, actually. But playing together in like bonspiels and stuff
over the years. Oh,
like
yeah.
20 years, I feel like. But regularly, yeah, I'd say about 3 or 4. We've been playing in this league together.
And off and on in the spiel since you were like 13, 14, really, when you were able to use the big rocks.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I have been curling, I counted up, and I think about 28 years. Mom had me on the ice when I was about 5. And I don't think I've missed a season since. The only reason I've missed a season was due to club closures because of COVID, and that was really only half a season. So very fortunate that way. My greatest accomplishment in my curling career, for me, would probably be back-to-back silver medals at the CIS championship. So it's the University Canadian or National Championship. I think it's youth sport now. But yeah, back-to-back silver medalist there was a pretty incredible accomplishment that I did with a group of girls from Brock. They're a great team.
All right, great. So you're both seasoned, experienced, and talented curlers. So Dale, when and how did you introduce Joanne to curling?
It was probably even when she was even 3 and 4 years of age. My brother, her uncle, was ice maker at 2 different clubs in Brampton, and we lived very close together. And I often, during the installation of the ice in September, early October, would help him because it tends to be a 24-hour job during the installation period. And so I would go over, Joe would come with me, and just to make it a little more fun for her so that she wasn't bored to tears, we would let her slide on the ice, and then her Uncle David, would actually sit her on the rocks and push the rocks so she could ride the rocks, so to speak. And that was as early as 3 and 4 years of age. And then by the time she was 5, which was a little younger than most children are allowed to start, little rocks, and they're probably about half the size, half the weight of our regular rocks that we throw with as adults. We got her on the ice throwing the little rocks type of thing at least 5, and I would participate as an instructor in that course for the juniors or little rockers.
And is that when, at that point, did you notice that she had a special talent for curling?
Probably not quite at that point. I think the dawn of, thinking that there was something there was when she was actually at a Little Rock bonspiel in Oakville with 3 other kids, and now she was skipping, and it didn't seem to phase on her how many rocks were in play or how, I'm going to say poorly, her players in front of her were playing or anything, and she seemed to be able to handle the pressure and everything at that stage. And she had to be only, I'm going to say 9 or 10 or something. And, it was like we both looked at each other going, oh, she can really do this.
That's wonderful. So at an early age, you've been able to watch Joanne and watch her skills grow over time. Specifically, as a mom, but also as an instructor with Little Rock. So Joanne, what was it like curling around your mom, with your mom, having your mom as an instructor when you were a young person?
Yeah, I think especially curling at our home club in Brampton, because it was mom, it was our my uncle, as mom had mentioned, and my grandparents as well. So it was a lot of pride, knowing that my family was curling there, and so now it was my turn that I get to curl. So yeah, I would kind of brag, like, oh, like that's my mom, or like that's my uncle, and would brag about it. So it was a ton of fun, and I absolutely loved it. I think as I got more into the competitive side of the game, kind of around kind of 12 and 13, I think being at that club, I maybe saw a little bit of pressure, but only because our whole family has many provincial championship banners hanging up at that club. So it was a constant reminder. But really, I was so lucky that I had a parent who was willing to come out, not just for those 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon for the Little Rock, but really anytime I would want to go throw, she'd be like, yep, let's go and let's work on stuff. So very lucky that way, that I had a parent who not only loved the game, but was really good at the instruction side of it as well.
Did you have other friends or were there other kids your age who had a similar relationship with their parents in terms of their closeness and having this sport in common?
I think I grew up in a generation of kids where there was probably about 50-50, where the parents were members or the parents would curl and they would come out and help. And then the other 50%, not even a little bit. But I do think because of the competitive nature that mom played herself, it definitely gave her an edge when it came to instruction, and being in, like, they ran clinics all throughout that club as well, so it was very natural for them to just kind of help me along the way as well. So it was definitely not as common when it came to the instruction side of things, I would say.
But in terms of being a family sport, there were parents and children there that you grew up with, the two of you. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, it's clear that that curling continues to have an impact on your life as we talk, and behind you there are brooms and and other curling paraphernalia. So being able to grow up, to raise your daughter in part in a curling club, and to be curling together and to help her grow with the sport. Dale, how has curling shaped Joanne as a person?
Well, I think it's not just Joanne, but I think it's all children that grow up in sort of a curling environment and stuff. The idea that a curling team is only 4 players, that I think it's much different than hockey teams or basketball teams. And the team dynamics and the personalities, I think, are much more volatile within that team dynamic aspect to the team, that I think that it makes you realize sort of the responsibility you have to the other players on your team, as far as, you know, your body language particularly, and just your demeanor on the ice, how it affects your teammates. And I think that curling is a wonderful sport for young people. It's similar to golf as far as the etiquette that goes along with it, and just the true sportsmanship that generally curling is played in.
Okay, interesting. So you've mentioned that it's not just the skills that individuals are contributing to the team, but also the communication, the interpersonal communication that becomes really important to develop those skills, and as well as etiquette to be able to relate and support one another as a team.
That's right. And even just the commitment, the fact there's only 4 of you on the team, you know, whatever you commit to for the season, you need to uphold that sort of thing. So I think curling really does teach a lot of life skill lessons for young people.
Joanne, would there be anything that you would add?
Yeah, I think there's kind of a leadership element to it that it really teaches, and that doesn't necessarily have to come solely from the skip position, which in curling would be more like your captain. Every player has a unique role, and they need to be able to bring kind of their positivity and all of that on the ice. And I think that has helped me really in any aspect, whether it's work, whether it's kind of a friendship side of thing, kind of be able to bring, knowing that I can bring something to the team or group of friends or work or things like that, and really just collaborate with whoever I work with.
Transferable collaboration skills, yeah.
I was going to say the other aspect to curling too is the fact that the game itself is played over at least 2 to 2.5 hours. So there's a huge element of patience that is involved too. And just, you know, when you are not curling well or the game isn't going your way, you know, there's a whole time expanse there that you've got to be able to control yourself emotionally and deal with that, and just set little goals for yourself rather than trying to think over the whole 2.5 hours. So, you know, I think it does develop patience and at times control of emotions and stuff, that, you know, it's not over till it's over.
A lot of self-regulation skills that that young people need to develop in order to be successful in a lot of different types of life activities.
Yes, and I mean, you see that a lot of times in the youngsters when they're first starting out. You know, at times we have a lot of broom banging and just you know, different antics on the ice that we have to like sort of try to weed out of them as they grow and develop. Right, Joe?
Absolutely. I was a broom slammer. 100% I was. I've slowly moved away from it. Every now and then I'll still let one slip, but I've worked on kind of self-awareness and being able to almost kind of just the strategies to work through that frustration, and because you still got either another rock to throw or you've got 6 other rocks that you have to play with. So yeah, you got to be able to forget quickly.
Yeah, I think that's why Joe likes the ability, the sweeping aspect to the game and stuff, rather than being down as a skip, not being able to do a lot, and there's no emotional release at all. And I think Joe uses her sweeping now as an emotional release.
Yeah, actually, that is one thing that I've learned about myself, and curling is the catalyst that has helped me, is that whenever I am stressed or any kind of anxiety comes up in my life on the ice, my best release is any kind of like physical activity. So as a sweeper, it's perfect because I can just kind of put it all into my sweeping. In life, it becomes physical activity and workouts or getting outside, and that lesson of myself solely came from curling, that I knew that. So
it's interesting to hear your mom talk about how you're managing yourself through your curling game, Joanne. When you're on the ice with your mom, does your relationship change somehow from mom into something else?
I would say it goes back and forth. That sometimes the games that we play once a week together, it could be the first time we've seen each other in a week, and so in between shots it might be a little bit of like catch up on life, like, oh, how's it going? But then kind of when it comes time to call a shot, then we go back into teammate mode, and to athlete mode, and to talk about the strategy. I think one thing that's really unique about us playing together is that we've watched each other play for my entire life, at least. And so we know what it looks like when each other has a really good throw. So it's a really unique kind of relationship that way, that we're able to provide that feedback. But we do go back and forth between like a mother and daughter catching up on life and then teammates. I think we are good at switching that back and forth.
Dale, what's your thought on that? Do you feel the same way?
Yes, for sure. I mean, there's not too many people that I would even ask them as far as how I'm throwing or what did they see, you know, that I know through Jo's coaching and training in the sport and everything, that she has just about as much of a critical eye as I do as far as the skill involved. So for me to, you know, how to ask her, how did I throw that? Or, you know, what happened to that sort of thing, that I trust her as far as the feedback that I'm getting from her. And, you know, as far as the club curling goes, I really can't say that with probably anybody else in the club. I would, you know, trust, if you will.
So would you say that there's more or less pressure curling with one another than with other people?
I'd say less myself, just because I don't feel the pressure to throw perfect and do everything. But at the same time, the feedback I'm getting from her helps my game that much more, sort of thing. So I don't feel pressure when we curl together, really. I think if anything, it should elevate our performance and ease the pressure.
Mm-hmm. I'd say anything I feel is all self-imposed. There are times I probably feel a little bit more pressure, mainly because I know mom's going to be very honest about how I would throw something. She's not really going to sugarcoat it. But at the end of the day, though, it's a ton of fun. So, and when it's club curling, there's usually not a whole lot of pressure to begin with. And so, yeah, it's usually just fun. Most of the pressure is just all internal on my end.
Well, and I think too, when I'm skipping and Jo's throwing, I think probably my role is more of a sort of a coaching role, in that I'm trying to give her feedback as to what I'm seeing in her consistent throwing.
Mm-hmm.
But you're doing it as in your role as a coach and a skip, and it's advice or feedback you would give to any of the members of your team.
Yes, except that I can be far more direct with Jo than I would, and probably, in essence, I'm probably not as positive with Jo's feedback because it's far more direct and than I would be most other people that I'm curling with. And a little bit of that is because most other people are not curling at the same level that Jo is. So I think maybe that comes with the territory, you know, the higher elite curlers and stuff. They want more direction, like more direct feedback. They don't want sugar. What did I do wrong? You know, what did you see, sort of thing, rather than, oh, well, you know, it's okay. Your shot's good. We'll make it good, sort of thing. We'll do something with it. Yeah. Right, Jo?
Yeah. I mean, every once in a while, it'd be nice to know that I'm doing something right. But no, it is. I like every game that we play is always an opportunity to practice and to learn. And even I know like mom has a very important competition coming up in the next month or so. So I have been trying to use these games just to remind her of just habits and techniques and be like, hey, you're getting lazy on this, like keep that sharp, and just to kind of keep her fresh going into the last event of the season for her, because it's a long season, and so you can get very comfortable, and we just call it lazy on technique, but it's hard to explain it any other way. But so when it's this later in the season, yeah, just to try to remain sharp. So been trying to help her on that a little bit with some reminders and cues.
So we use I was going to
Good.
say, so we use our club games when we curl together more as practice. And certainly during COVID and stuff, we have not gone out and had practice sessions, which we normally any other time would, to sharpen ourselves and to refocus. And that's what happens when you play games and games and games. You kind of lose focus of the small aspects to the skill that you need to pay attention to all the time.
Right. But it sounds like the two of you, when you play together, you have the advantage of being able to be kind of direct and honest with each other about the kinds of feedback that will help improve each other's games.
Oh, for sure. I think I personally, but well, of course, Joanne's sweeping ability and everything that's a huge advantage that we have there. And you're right, just being able to be as critical as we are with each other on our skill is a definite advantage over other teams. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Anything to add there, Joanne?
Yeah, I think even just being able to read the body language or knowing that we don't have to really say a whole lot. Having played with mom and watching her, I even know her style of strategy. And so when it comes to calling shots, not a whole lot has to be said at times. But I'm also really comfortable at letting her know, be like, yeah, I don't think that's the call here. We should go with something else. And so there's a comfort level there as well, which is really nice. But like any kind of teammate, any relationship dynamic, you're going to have your good days and you're going to have your bad days. And there's the odd day that we're really not on the same page. And there's frustration there. But I think, again, at the end of the day, because we're family, you kind of just rub it off, like just get it rolls off the shoulder and be like, all right, well, love you, see you later. Kind of thing.
And I do think that is one disadvantage, is the fact that we know each other so well that I think that at times our emotions aren't as much in check with each other as they would be with another teammate. That we can, I don't know if I want to say we can be more raw with each other, but if I'm in a bad mood, Joanne's going to know about it.
I know about it.
Whereas if it was another teammate, they may not know that I was in a bad mood as much.
Because you have the trust to be able to know that your relationship can weather, the ups as well as the downs on both of your sides.
Yes, for sure.
So you mentioned family. What does it mean to the two of you that you have the opportunity to curl together as family members today, both as adults and as women?
I think it's such a unique thing with curling. I think that we have been able to play together since I was like 10. And now into my 30s, being able to do that still and at a fairly good kind of level has been a ton of fun. But again, it's such a unique thing, and we could be continuing to do this for the next 20 years if mom wants to keep playing for 20 years. Okay, maybe 10.
I won't even last that long.
I think it's creating memories. We talk about bonspiels and events all the time around the dinner table, and it's a ton of fun. I think one thing we do have to be careful is that not everyone in the family curls. So not that our dinners shouldn't be solely about curling, but it does tend to happen. And also, I will say with curling, growing up as a young female, we always were able to watch the Scott Tournament of Hearts, which is the national curling event for women in Canada. And it always had airtime on TSN, and it was on every single year. And I think that's very unique when it comes to women in sport. Like, I think about young girls who are playing hockey. I feel like the only time they get to see their idols play is every 4 years of the Olympics. So I felt very fortunate that I got to watch my idols every year compete at the Scotties, and they've just constantly been adding women's events to slams, and now it seems like once a month you were watching women on TV play. And so I think that's really cool that I was able to grow up watching other women play on TV. So I had something to strive for, which is something very unique in curling, I think.
Well, and I was going to say, I sort of went through the same thing when I was growing up too, in that my mother ran the junior program at our club when I turned 13, sort of thing. And then there was a time that I actually curled with my mother in a regular league at the club for many, many years. And we did bonspiels together. The other thing that I saw too, when you're speaking about women, very early on in my, growth in curling, that I saw my own mother go away to provincial, sort of thing, that she was away for a week or so playing herself. So, I mean, it's part of a tradition that we've grown up, that nothing has to stop curling, sort of thing. And I certainly can't tell you how many sort of Christmas dinners that I missed growing up when we curled mixed provincials and stuff, because they always seemed to be just prior to Christmas. And my brother and I would miss our family Christmas dinners because we'd be in playdown, sort of thing. And certainly it was never really questioned, or there was never a negative aspect put on it. The fact that we were out there competing when, maybe we should have been at family dinners. So I think we've always had a very sort of, I don't know, a good outlook to playing in sports, and the thought that no matter what your life situation is, you should still be able to play if you want to play.
Yeah. We're always encouraged to play.
Mm-hmm. And even playing when we were pregnant, or when I was pregnant, sort of thing, that it doesn't have to stop you. The physical aspect to curling does not need to stop just because you're pregnant.
Yeah, I blame mom for my cold hands and feet nowadays, because she played so long into her pregnancy with me that I was so close to the ice all the time.
I didn't think about playing curling while you're pregnant. That I guess because curling allows for different kinds of modifications with your play, it's something that you can do regardless of.
As long as you're healthy and stuff, you just modify a little bit your delivery, and there's no issue. I mean, your body balance is actually lower in your body and stuff as you go through your pregnancy. So it makes it quite easy, really, as long as you're healthy and can keep your leg strength up. It's great.
Wow. Okay, so my final question before I open the floor to any other comments. So for you, Dale, what's maybe one hope that you have for your daughter when it comes to continuing to curl in her life, either with her or in other life circumstances?
I just hope that if she wants to continue her competitive path, that she's able to find a team that can showcase her talent. I mean, whether she ever makes it to Scotties or whatever, that to me is here nor there. It's her love of the game and how she pursues that love, and with the idea that you have to have 3 other people unless she continues in the mixed doubles, sort of thing. That it's just the love of the sport and the passion that you have for it, whether it takes you to high competitive area or just normal club stuff. That's fine.
Thanks. And Joanne, you mentioned that your mother is going to be competing in the next month in an international tournament. What's one piece of advice that you would give her as she prepares?
To soak up the experience. I know how competitive my mom is because I get it from her. And so to enjoy it, to not worry too much about the wins and losses. They're going to come either way. It's sport, it happens. But soak it up. You're playing on a world stage. Like, how epic is that? So yeah, soak it up, and make memories and enjoy it, because you never really know what the next day is going to bring. So enjoy every single moment, have fun, and a good sharp release every time.
All right, so any other comments that you'd like to make to the readers of Fit is a Feminist Issue blog? So it's got 21,000 followers, at least a couple hundred folks hit every day. What's something that you'd like the readers of this blog to know about curling?
I think for me, especially if the majority of them are females and everything, that it's a wonderful sport to get involved in from a social aspect, from fitness aspect, that it certainly is something you can do at any time during your life, that, you know, we can adapt body types to the skill at any age or anything, that it's a wonder, you know, if you're looking for a sport to get involved in, that it's great.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think Mom really touched on it, is that at any stage of your life, you can curl. I think that's the incredible thing about it. You can start when you're 5, or you can start when you're 60. And it's so welcoming. There's a spot for everybody in curling. And it's more of a workout than most people think, actually. I know when I come up from sweeping, I'm usually huffing and puffing and working to get my heart rate back down. But yeah, and the amount of empowerment that really comes with playing as a female, I think is a ton of fun, because we can play the game right alongside the men, right alongside anybody, and it really doesn't really make a difference who you are in this sport. You can play, so it's a ton of fun.
And you've also shown our readers that when it comes to spending time with each other and enjoying each other's company, as well as creating memories with one another, that curling is a real family sport as well, something that both parents and children can do together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And at one point in our life, we had 3 generations all playing on the same team in a bonspiel. So those are some really special memories for us. Absolutely.
All right, thank you both.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime.
Thank you.